Remakes versus remasters. Do they improve gaming or ruin nostalgia?
Okay.
Tim, go ahead and start this off because we all know this was your idea.
Okay. So, against the 50-50 thing, I'm okay if they remake a game that never has been done before. Like, you know what I mean? That haven't done something that was like 30 plus years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But when you keep doing fucking Resident Evils and them type of games, or Last of Us 1s and 2s and...
The Last of Us I didn't understand. Not because I hate the game or anything, but it was like a couple years old.
Yeah.
And they were like, boom, remastered. And it's like, it was...
But it's a quick cash grab, unfortunately. Some games I think it's okay for them to do, but not everything needs to be remastered. Some things are just better left to where it's at. And I do feel like a lot of us, especially millennials, we are suckers for nostalgia. And I'm one of them. You know, I do think it is ruining it a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I feel like they could be focusing on actually making a new IP of something, no matter what the company is. But we keep running back to these easy cash grabs with these remakes and remasters.
But I think it could bring in a new gamer of sorts. Like they get that game that we love so much out to these younger gamers, because you're like, so for instance, Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
So how many of these, you know, let's take one of Malik's kids, West, for instance, would he really go back on PlayStation 1 and play the old Final Fantasy with terrible graphics?
No.
Or would he rather play the one that just came out?
Yeah.
On PS5? Then he's like, okay, well, I can try this. So I think in that sense it could be good, but it has to be some time between them.
Yes. That's always my thing is, what are you doing, for one?
Right.
And what is the point behind it? Because generally the remasters are just cash grabs. Because remasters are generally, they're not changing anything. They just might make it look a little better. But like, for example, The Last of Us, the first ones, there's 3 versions of it. There's the original that came out on the PS3.
Correct.
There's the remaster that came out on the PS4.
Right.
And then there's the remake that came out on the PS5. The remaster there was literally no change gameplay-wise from the original and the remaster. All the remaster did was make the graphics look a little better from PS3 to PS4. I played that. Then a couple years later, they came out with the remake, where they changed the gameplay a little bit to make it more like The Last of Us Part 2. That, I feel it was unneeded because, one, you just had The Last of Us Part 2 come out, and 2, the difference between 1 and 2 wasn't that great to where you needed a remaster.
Right.
Now, Tim just brought up Resident Evil. I think remakes of that is necessary because, like Quintin said, younger gamers aren't going to go back and play the original Resident Evil. They're not going to play the original Resident Evil 2. Those tank controls are basically unplayable. Tank controls of the old Resident Evils is trash. It's trash. And part of it, and the, isometric camera angle that doesn't really move is not good. They only did it because of the graphical limitations. So the remakes of those games make sense because you can give them a lot more of the horror feel with the newer technology that's available.
Right.
So I'm okay with those. Because like you said, Quintin, no one's going to go back from those days, from this generation, go back and play those games and enjoy them.
Right.
They're not going to enjoy them.
Right. I mean,
like the original Resident Evil, that dog jumping through the window scared the shit out of us. But back then, that was a technological marvel. You give these kids that, they're going to look at that and say, this looks like shit.
Mhm.
Why would this scare me?
Right.
They should play Out of This World.
That game is terrible.
But just the simple fact of bringing in new gamers on something that we played, I don't see the problem with it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. But like I said, you have to let time pass.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
like to be honest, we need a remake, a remaster, whatever of the Warriors game.
Yes. It's been
It
20
needs to
years.
happen.
I'm okay with
It's
that.
been how long?
About 20 years?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It needs to happen.
Yes.
So, but we don't need a remaster, a remake of God of War 2018. It
Correct.
just came out.
Yeah.
Like we don't. It's too soon.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
So,
Like I'm saying, it's time based. Because like I said,
Yeah.
the difference between the games needs to have. There has to be something in the industry that has changed drastically
yeah,
that would make a remake or remaster worthwhile.
right.
From the PS3 era on, technology hasn't changed drastically enough to where most of these games need a remaster, in my opinion, or a remake.
Yeah,
I can
agree.
understand
I
that.
agree with you.
Prior to like the PS2, if you look at a PS2 game and compare it to a PS5 game, you're like, what the fuck is that?
I remember we used to think Madden was realistic.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Like, so those getting remakes and remasters make sense because the technology has changed so much that it would be better served by remaking it. What Naughty Dog did with The Last of Us was bullshit.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I will say that. And The Last of Us is one of my favorite games ever.
Storytelling masterpiece.
Storytelling masterpiece. But
Like, no.
them doing that remake was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
100% unnecessary. It was all a cash grab.
So
the original Last of Us, I think, came out in 2012 or 2013.
Yeah.
So-
one or the other. They did the remake in like 2023. That's a 10-year gap between the original and the remake. The remaster came out in like 2015.
So I think if enough time passes, then I think it is improving. But I think if you try to force it in for no reason, then I think it is the ruining the nostalgia,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
I think it's pointless at that point. Like personally, would I like an updated version of Mario 64 on the Switch? Sure. But I mean, that's they're just doing that with the Mario games now. They're basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So, but like I said, there are some old games I do think need to be remastered
Or remade.
or remade.
So actually, back to the Final Fantasy. I have no problem. Whatever the 7 thing, whatever. I understand how 7 is iconic, and I understand that. Why not remake Final Fantasy 1 or 2?
Absolutely.
or
And I
3
was about to say
or
that. They
4
should do
or
that.
5 or 6, because even though I owned them, but I never fully played them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that fan base where everyone says 6 is the best Final Fantasy, and then you got the 7 fan base where everyone's like, well, Kefka actually destroyed the world, and da da da. But I'm like, okay, well, people like you said, most people don't want to play with those graphics, and I get that. I would. That's just me, but I wouldn't mind playing a 6 remake.
Yeah.
Give me
5.
a remake of NBA Street.
Yes.
Yes. But I do think they do a lot of these for cash.
It's all
always
money
cash.
based.
It's always gonna be
money-based.
cash. Yeah.
Money is always the deciding factor.
But it's like I said at the beginning of this topic, if they do something that hasn't been that really actually needs it, and I do think those previous Final Fantasies before 7 should get it.
Yeah, I agree.
I really do.
I agree.
10. I didn't think they need to make that 10 the 10 up remastered for. I know it was years since, but but I didn't think they really need to make that right at that time when they did for PS4.
I think 10 still holds up well enough.
I think
so,
it did.
Yeah,
My dumbass ran out and bought it because it's my favorite one. But it's
Yeah.
just the point. Like, but I rather would have seen a remake of 6 and down, or shit, even Xenogears.
But if they do
You know.
remake 10 right now, 10 came out when I was in 7th grade. That
Yeah,
was
it came out-
2002.
2000. It was 2000 or 2001 because I was in
Well,
high
it had to
school.
be 1 and 2 because I was like,
I was
I
in-
remember being in 7th grade playing it. Maybe
It
I'm
was
wrong.
2000 or 2001 because I was in high school when 10 came out.
Let me see.
The thing ain't working. Oh, there we go.
July 19th, 2001. So yeah, I was about to start 7th grade. So yeah, yeah. So but if they made this more like the way they did 7,
Right.
and remastered it that way, I would go and buy this.
Yeah.
Without question. But look at the time. That's 25 years ago.
Yeah, that's
25 years.
And that's
yeah.
okay. You know what I mean? It's just like you said, the shit like with The Last of Us 2, like it came out in 2020, then we had a remaster or remake in 2023 or something like that. And I'm like, this is stupid.
Mhm.
Like this is absolutely stupid.
It's all, in my opinion, it's all about the time frame.
Yeah.
And I also think there needs to be for a remake, there needs to be a technological advancement other than just graphical fidelity that would make it worthwhile to do a remake.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A remaster, if you just, hey, it's the PlayStation 6 and we want to take a PlayStation 4 game and make it look a little better, but keep basically the graphics exactly the same. Okay, fine, whatever. Like, I can't sit there and complain about that when the Last of Us, the first one I played, was the remaster.
Yeah.
But once again, these days there's very few technological advances coming along that's going to grant a remake of anything that's come either PS3 or PS4 or later.
Right.
The whole thing with Resident Evil, like I get what you were saying, like, you know, that tank controls are terrible. But my thing was Resident Evil is still big today because they're still making sequels to those games. That's why I didn't think there was no need for them to do the remake at that time.
I see the reason to do the remake because you have a whole brand new fan base of Resident Evil players who came in at 7 or later, and they have no lore prior to that.
That's a good point.
Oh, they can go on YouTube.
Because 7 blew up. Because 7 blew up. Like I said, Daryl got into it heavy starting with 7. A lot of people got into Resident Evil heavy starting with 7. So anything before that,
I thought it was 4.
4, what you gotta think, 4 blew up, but then it died with 5 and 6. No one gave a shit about 5 or 6.
Okay.
I liked 5.
I enjoyed 5 as an action game, but it was not a Resident Evil game. But like, if you think about it, Resident Evil 4 came out in what?
It was early 2000s.
2005 was the original release date of Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 7 came out, what, 2021?
It might have been a little earlier. That
Resident Evil 7 came out in 2017.
Okay. And 8 was the one with that big girl.
Yeah.
Stupid man thing.
But 20
so everybody
I said
was gooning over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said 2005 was 4.
Yeah.
So that's a 12-year gap. You got to think, if someone
5
is
was definitely
15,
08, 09.
like if someone was 15 playing Resident Evil 7, that means they were only a couple years old when 4 came out. They're not playing that.
Yeah.
So they're missing out on everything prior to 7. So how do you get these people to know what, especially with, I don't know, I didn't play 7, 8, or 9, but from what I understand, 9 is kind of a sequel to like 4 and 5, like the original series. So for people to understand, like, we as Resident Evil fans or older generation fans got excited when they said Leon's coming back.
Right.
Someone who started with 7 is like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like, who's that guy? Like, we're like, yes, Leon's back. Everyone else is like, who the fuck is that? Like, my wife will have no fucking clue who Leon Kennedy is. So how do you bring him into the forefront? Let's remake 2. Why they haven't done a remake of 1 is beyond me. 1 should have been done years ago. That should, if you're doing remakes, you should start with the original.
Yeah, absolutely.
like their first remake was it 2?
I believe it was
Final Fantasy
two.
skipped the whole 6.
Yeah, Final Fantasy
Went to
skipped
remake of
the
7.
first 6 and just went to the most popular one.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy's different because I don't think the stories
Nah,
intertwine, correct?
Not usually.
No, but
So-
there's a Sid in every Final Fantasy, though. Did you know that?
But they're
But
like
Sid,
so like you don't have to play 1 to understand 7. So
Right.
that
yeah.
I get.
Oh yeah.
But I know the characters from the past ones. I just never, like I said, I just never really played them. I never, I mean, I have them, I just never played them. But again, I get what you're saying because that's how I guess look at us for like a lot of people's first Final Fantasy was 7
Yeah.
or 8, and so I get it, so I can understand stuff like that. But it's just like some of these games, they're just like these damn cash grabs. Just even Sega, like what Sega's doing, how they're trying to bring back Crazy Taxi, and, Jet Grind Radio, which they haven't made that in over 20 plus years. And stuff like that.
Like those things, like I
That's
said,
fine.
there's nothing wrong with remakes and remasters as long as they are done honestly with the correct. It's all about the timing.
Right.
It all comes down to the timing. If it felt like a game just came out and you're doing a remake or remaster of it, anyone's going to be like, that's just a cash grab and you're being lazy.
Yeah. I think that's what we all agree on. Is just the timing. So.
Yeah, like Q said, if they did a remake or remaster of 2018 God of War, we're gonna be like, the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed enough to not enough time has passed. Nothing's changed enough in order to making that game worthwhile.
Right.
The original God of War series, absolutely, because those came out in like 2002. They came out over 20 years ago on a game. They can make it look like 2018.
Right.
So like things have changed a lot since then. So those games I expect to come out looking incredible. Like imagine fighting the big ass Hydra in a 2018 style God of War.
Yeah.
That would be fucking fun.
Yeah. So, well, at least we all agree.
Yeah.